Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Lisa Ann Experience. I am happy to be sitting here with you today. We'll be even more excited Friday, 2 p.m. Eastern, when we watch this video component together on my YouTube at The Real Lisa Ann. Super exciting episode. I pulled one out. Expect the unexpected with me right here at the Lisa Ann Experience. And I will tell you, my guest today I've known for 30 years, and the interview was the first time I found out how it was that we ended up in the same place at the same time. So it's just like fascinating stuff, and I'll get to his intro. But first, I'm on a little reading tear. I had read Love People Use Things and loved it. Then I was fortunate to get the new book, the new version of A Secret. It's called The Greatest Secret. I highly recommend it. I loved it. And just last weekend, I read The Magic of Surrender by Kurt Blackson. And I will be having Kurt on for an interview right here on the Lisa Ann Experience coming up because I love that book. And I will say, if you want to read 3 books together, just really good spiritual cleansing, mindset reminders, thought-provoking, just positive insight. Go for it in this order. Love People Use Things by The Minimalists, The Greatest Secret by Rhonda Byrne, and The Magic of Surrender by Kurt Blackson. They were amazing. So between the reading tears and because fantasy football season is around the corner, and I know that I won't get a lot of time to read because I'll be watching games and I'll be reading a lot of injury updates and I'll be studying my lineups. I have so many drafts just around the corner. I've been currently shooting a ton of draft orders on Cameo. Fun fact, when you order a Cameo message of your favorite celebrity, please order it on the website. When you order it through the app, believe it or not, because Apple Pay and how Apple has set up the processing for the app, Apple's taking 30%, and then you give also your 25% to Cameo. So it's kind of a bummer. You see what you're actually getting. You're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe how much Apple is taking. So I'm asking everybody, if you buy Cameos, I buy them a lot. I'm big into buying anyone from the 90 Day Fiance franchise, now Life After Lockup. Like, I love buying Cameos, and I will always remember to buy it from the site because I know the backstory of why. But I want you to be sure that if you're supporting your favorite celebrity, that they are getting that 30% that they deserve. Okay. So don't let Apple get that because that's what, well, I'm just saying. It's just a fun fact. Might be useless information, but it's real. What else is real is it's about time for me to get out, start doing some events and doing things. And I've been getting a ton of calls and hit up, hey, do you want it? And I'm like, oh, I don't know. Trying not to read too much of the news, but I know there's still a lot going on. I don't want to travel too much of a ton, but I committed. I said, you know what? I'm going to set up my first 2 events. They're both going to be charity events, and then I'll be getting out for a good cause. So as anxious as we are about going into crowded spaces, I made this pretty smart. Both of my first 2 events, one's going to be in DC for the Cloakroom. They do a Cloakroom Classic golf tournament every year, and I got to be a part of it in 2019. Of course, it didn't happen last year, but I get to go. They always have the girls from the club. They call them the Cloakroom Cuties. They're playing Twister on different holes. Like, it's a ton of fun. So I will be out and about doing that. It's just going to be exciting to have some fun photos to post and to be doing something outdoors. And then my second charity event that you all can feel free to participate by helping me reach my fundraising goal. You know, I've been doing this walk since 2017. I go back to California for it. It's kind of a tradition. I get to see my friends. And that is the Walk to End Alzheimer's. It will be October 16th in Huntington Beach. I have been posting the link. You can find Team TRLA for the Real Lisa Ann on their site as well. But I've been putting the link on my Twitter timeline, on my Facebook at the Real Lisa Ann. So just do whatever you can because it all adds up. And I really want to be in that Champions Club. You know, in 2017, I was a top earner and was called to the stage and the beach was packed and they announced the top earners. It was such a beautiful feeling. Like, I stood there thinking, and as everybody was cheering, because it's so exciting to see how much each one of these walks can generate towards whatever you're campaigning for. And there's so many great walks you can get involved in. I've made some great friends doing them. I meet up with friends. I have friends that drive up from San Diego. I have friends that drive down from LA. So it's become like this reunion. But help me reach my fundraising goal. That would be totally, totally awesome. So we've got some books. We've got me getting out, which you also know is going to give us great content because whenever I travel, there's amazing stories for this right here said monologue. But before that, I want to talk about a very, very, very well-known scene that I did. It lands on Reddit regularly. Not the sex part, not at all. It's not the scene itself that everybody loves. It's when I was a lifeguard at a bathtub and I had my male performer in the tub and told him there was a shark in a tub. His famous line was, "This is not a beach, it's a bathtub." Well, I reached out to Jonathan Morgan, who directed that scene. And I asked Jonathan, who I've known for my entire career, Jonathan, did you have any idea how popular this scene is? And he didn't. He's shot and directed so many scenes and he's done so many things that he couldn't believe it. I'm like, you have to understand, like, this is the biggest thing. Like, this to me, more people will say this is not a beach, it's a bathtub as they're walking by me than ever talk about Sarah Palin. And so it was a remarkable conversation we had. And I said, Jonathan, can we talk about this on my podcast? Because I want everybody to know how you came up with this concept, why we were shooting the lifeguard scene in the bathroom, and why I was a lifeguard in a bathtub. And Jonathan Morgan and I have known each other for over 30 years. I've known him my entire career. He's an incredibly amazing guy. We started knowing each other as performers. We worked together in the 90s. He then became a director, and now he's a talent agent. Today, we get to sit and share a really fun conversation about how Jonathan got into the industry, as well as how he came up with this bright idea and how he knew I would be the performer that would sign up and say, yes, I will be a lifeguard in a bathtub. So this coming up right here, my friend, Jonathan Morgan. So today I bring you a friend who I have known so many ways and done so many things with, but the one thing that stands out is the infamous bathtub scene where I declare that this is not a beach, it's a bathtub. That is Jonathan Morgan, who directed that masterpiece and did not know what a big deal it was. Jonathan, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm good. Jonathan, we have a ton of history and it goes in the business of my whole career. So I want to go back and ask you, when did you get into the business and how did you get into the business?
Well, I got in the business in 1990. And as funny as it might sound, I actually got in the business as a dare. I was working at the time for a
You
major
said
hotel.
a dare? A dare?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I was working at the time for a major hotel chain. I don't know if I'm allowed to say the name or not.
Okay, we don't have to. We don't have to include
Uh,
that.
and I was working I was working in the banquet department, and my roommate at the time, who also worked in the banquet department. Anyway, we threw this big party, and you know what? God, I might even have a picture of it if you want to see.
This
It
is
was
fun.
back in the day. I know we're going. Let me see. I know I have it. We were doing a toga party of all things, toga.
At this hotel.
Anyway, huh?
At this hotel, 1990.
No, it's 1990, but we're having it at not at the hotel. We worked at the hotel, but
Okay.
we're having it over at our apartment that we shared together. He was my roommate. And anyway, long story short, we popped in one. Somebody did. I don't know who did, but they popped in an adult movie. It was for Vivid Video, and in
Well,
the
Vivid was
movie,
around.
yeah, in the movie of all things was Tom Byron, and I forget who the girl was at the time. But the point is that my roommate saw Tom Byron and said, "Oh my gosh, if a skinny guy like that can get into porn, I could get into porn," meaning himself. And I was like, dude, I could, because he was just all body, but he had, nothing up here. And I was like
Okay.
going, oh, I could get into it because I was doing acting and stuff. So I
Okay.
thought, oh, with my acting background, it would probably help me out. So we decided the dare was who could get into porn first, and whoever wins, the other person pays for that month's rent. Long story short, long story short, I end up getting into the adult business, and I have. Let me see if I can
So,
pull
okay,
it
let me
up.
just 1990 to get into the business. What did you do? Did you go to Jim South's office?
Yeah, that was the only thing that was available was Jim South. I
Oh
mean,
my
it
God,
was
on Van Nuys Boulevard.
yeah.
On Van Nuys.
So
Do you
I had no.
remember the visual of Jim South's office? Okay. I remember the large ashtrays that were just filled with cigarette butts, right?
Oh,
Because he
what
always
about
smoked
all
in the
the
office.
pictures on the
Yes,
wall?
I was gonna get there. All the creepy pictures on the wall, but then even worse. Do you remember the Polaroid books that you could go through and see everybody standing naked in that hallway with the blue
Yes,
wall?
yes. It was, and of course everyone, and on the guys just look like,
Scared
it's just this.
shitless.
Oh my
Well,
God, it
for
was
some guys,
terrifying.
it may have been the first time they were alone having their photo taken in a hallway from a guy they'd never met before, right? There's a lot to unpack there, and you can see the fear in their eyes. And I remember looking through those books. So, did your friend also go into Jim Sal's office?
No, he tried something else. He was mailing. I think he mailed stuff to Vivid Video and maybe to somebody else, but he did everything by mail. I took the on the porn that was playing at the time. I took the box. God, remember
Okay.
when they used to have the big boxes
Yes,
and
I do.
stuff?
Yes.
So I take the box that the movie was in and I turned it over, and there it said Vivid Video and it had a phone number. And so all I did was just call that number. The receptionist said, "Hey, we don't hire male talent directly. You have to go to this guy named Jim South." And she gave me the number and I called him up, and well, I found myself in that Polaroid book. And I was probably in that Polaroid book for gosh, at least a good 3 months. Now, I how I was always raised with two entrepreneur parents, and they really taught me a really good work ethic. And one of the things that was key was the whole famous analogy: the squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Yeah.
So I would call up Jim every Friday, like clockwork, for 3 months. Finally, when I called him up and he could actually recognize my voice, and he goes, "Hey, Jonathan." And I was going, "Hey, Jim, just checking in to see if you got anything for me." And he said, and I think it was the one thing about porn, and I think you'll agree with me, Lisa, is a lot of the times it comes down to just right place at the right
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
And so what ended up happening is here I am bugging Jim South, and sitting across his desk was one at that time, one of the most famous directors. Remember, oh God, yeah, and of course now it's slipping my mind. Um, it was Tori Wells' husband,
Oh, 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 oh,
Paul
oh.
something.
Wasn't Stanley, was it? Was it Paul Stanley? Was it
No.
Paul? Okay, pass. Well, it'll come
Okay,
to us. It'll come to us.
okay. So
Oh, he
anyway,
shot for Vivid for years. He shot for
yeah,
Vivid for
and
years.
his movies
Paul
that
Thomas.
Paul,
Paul
yeah,
Thomas.
and,
Boom. He made beautiful movies. That's why. Okay, boom. Thank you. I
And
remember that.
so he was doing a movie that involved prosthetics, and it involved the lead male talent wearing a 3 foot long fake penis, and it was for a movie called Bigger, which was a spoof on the Tom Hanks movie Big. And so he Jim South puts Paul on the phone. I'm like, "Hey, listen, I'm want to get in this business and stuff like that." And he says, "Would you completely shave everything down there and let me glue on a 3 foot long penis for this movie I'm doing?" And I'm like, "Okay." Little did I know that that glue would end up giving me a rash for a month and a half. But
Oh.
I ended up getting my very first movie, which was called Bigger. And I ended up getting on the box cover, and that's the first of many movies after that.
OMG. Okay, first and foremost, how old were you in 1990?
Oh, 20. 24, 24.
So you're 24 years old, you make this bet with your friend. Obviously, you stayed at the hotel until you got work. Now, I love what you said about Jim South because you remember me getting into the business. The big thing for me was always feature dancing. And so
Yes.
I did the same thing with the dance agents. I just annoyed and pestered them and just called every fucking Monday. They knew I was going to be the first person just grinding them, you know? But look, I was never a problem when I got on the road. I always got rebooked back, but I just that first year to 2 years, you're just pushing, pushing. You just want a little bit more work, a little bit more work. You got to be super hungry. But when you meet Jim South and you decide that you can do this, I mean, some guys think they can do it. You've been a director, you've been talent, you've been a director, and now you're a talent agent, which we're going to get to. But how did you know you weren't going to fail? That's always the question I ask guys. How did you know you could do it?
Well, first off, there is no school. There's no porn 101. That's one of and again, we'll get to it about the agency. What differs us from from a lot of the other agencies, again, because of my background and understanding, I'm able to pass along this knowledge to up and comers like I
Yeah.
was. But it really was. You have to be, well, let's face it, Lisa. Everyone that's in this business sexually is just a little bit off, a little bit
Yeah.
maybe overly sexual, a little overly dirty, a little overly deviant. You got to have,
Or
more,
overly voyeuristic,
yes,
entertain, all of those things. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, you definitely have to have a comfortability because, and here's the big thing that's completely different than what it is here we are in 2021. But in 1990 and the time when you joined in, everything was a feature, which means there was at least 20 people surrounding you when you're having sex.
Yes.
So you need to be very comfortable. Now, going back to what I said, which was I felt I had a really good chance because of my acting. My acting was all based on being in a theater, on a stage. So performing in front of a large crowd, granted I was clothed,
Sure.
was not a big deal. So it wasn't, for me, it wasn't the stage fright or being around people I don't know didn't bother me. The
There
only
was
thing that
also
was,
no Viagra or assistance like there is now for a
no.
male performer. And so it was different. The connection was different between the female and the male performer. I think there was a lot more intimacy there and
Oh, absolutely.
and contact and just like we it was more of a team effort then. But who
Yeah.
was the first girl you worked with?
The first girl I worked with was Terry Diver.
I
Do you
remember that
remember
name.
Terry Diver?
Yes.
It was
Okay. Okay.
it was there was a couple, Terry and Todd Diver.
Okay.
She was an actress in the movies, and he was an up and coming director. But anyway, she was my very first one, and God, I remember just being absolutely petrified. But got through it, and
You kind of excelled, Jonathan. I mean, many, many years later, how many scenes do you think you did in the industry?
I didn't. When you hear some of the numbers from some of these legends, like I said, like Tom Byron
Yeah.
and those type
Shawn
of,
Michaels, Rocco, like you're
yeah,
like,
I mean
okay.
they've done thousands upon
Thousands.
thousands. I probably my even though my career went from 1990 and here I am 2021, but my as far as me performing, it was only from 1990 to 2000, so it was only a 10-year
10-year
gap.
span.
Yeah, and in that 10 years, I probably did no less than 700, no more than 900, somewhere
Yeah,
in
because
between
like
there.
you said, everything was a feature then. So, it wasn't like Gonzo where you're just shooting a scene every single day. You might have had a
Yeah,
whole day of dialogue. You might have had a whole day of setups of other things. Like it was very, very, very different.
yeah,
Totally
and most of the
unbelievable.
time,
So you had to pay your friend's rent over this bet. How pissed was he that you became so successful? And are you still friends with him now?
I'm not friends with him now. We did try to stay in contact. I think the last time he tried to reach out to me was 1998. And he was wanting to get in the business, and again, I tried to explain to him. my knowledge about what this business is like, and it is for a guy. Uh, man,
It's not nice.
it's not. It's not.
No.
This is what I always tell all of the young men that call up or try or get in contact with me to get into this industry. And one of the analogies I always use is this. Porn is like, imagine you're a baseball player and you're basically being told every time you go up to bat, you have to hit a home run. If you hit anything less than a home run, you're back to AAA ball. I mean, it is
You're
there.
so right. Yeah.
There
There's no
is
room for error.
no back. And again,
Because without your home run, aka known as the pop shot, we don't get paid. Our job is
nope.
not done. The mission is
Mhm.
not accomplished. So we do rely on you to hit a home run. I've never looked at it that way, and I love that analogy.
Well, I have to say that I don't think a lot of people realize how that it's a tough job, because it really is a mental job. Because a guy, a girl, and I say this in no disrespect, but a girl, a little bit of lube and it's like, I'm wet, let's go.
I
But with
feel
a
you.
guy, it's even with Viagra and stuff like that. Remember, you have to be mentally there. Unless you are mentally turned on, it's just not going to work. Viagra is not a
Listen, I fought so hard for men to get better rates and always tried to pay guys better, because it was at one point they were getting paid a third of what the female performer was getting paid. And I'm like, he's kind of just as important, if not more so, even though I know she's going to be the one that's out promoting it. She's going to be on the packaging. We're looking back to the time where we did trade shows all the time, IVD, traveled to warehouse things, met buyers,
right.
that kind of era was so different. But that's good advice. So flash forward to you directing. And I always loved working with you. And
Oh,
I
thanks.
always loved the fact that Wicked stayed with the theme of always using condoms and allowed girls to have a place to have a contract and girls have a place to work, that wanted that to be their choice. And, the message gets so kind of screwed in the industry of how much harder it is or how much this. I think it's really too important, because people are watching porn younger than ever. And I definitely think that they think we're having better sex because we're having unprotected sex. But really, we're
Well,
acting. Really, there's a guy on the side that's telling me I'm not talking enough shit, that I'm not loud enough, that I need to be, making more noises. I'm like, I don't know what to do. You know what I mean? This just isn't what I do.
well, I have to say that in today's porn, through that we have all of our, and I'm sure we have all of our performers tested every 14 days for
Yeah.
7 different types of STDs. The industry as a whole has always said, listen, it's your body, your choice.
Right.
You can wear condoms if you want to. There are some companies that, are still condom based, but overall, and again, every woman has heard from a guy, oh, if I put a condom on, I can't feel it. Okay, well, I guess to some degree. But
it is harder to shoot. I learned to empathize with the male performer, because it is harder to shoot, because the average guy isn't doing all the other things the male performer is. I picture it like this. We're by the pool, we're at a rock. He gets to be on one foot, right? For this one position, right? And he's got to stay focused mentally, and he's got to be hard. And the condom. And then you got to add it. Like, it is a bit more.
Yeah. I don't think that a lot of guys realize at home, there's a lot of, when you're having sex at home, there's a lot of stop start. There's a lot of, hey, let's get some water. Hey, let's take a break. In porn, there's, once we get going, you're going. So so don't.
You'll be sweating. So you directed me quite a few times. We've actually worked together in the 90s as well. So our careers have been woven together.
Yes.
You remember me from my Rosie Colucci era, which was really the dream. Jay Shanahan went along with it. I wanted to be named Rosie Colucci. I never intended to use my real name, Lisa Ann. He went along with it for my whole first movie or two. You knew the name. Like, certain people know the name. But when you put together that series for Wicked with the lifeguard and I'm in the bathtub, like, it blows my mind to this day. Jonathan, that scene is on Reddit all the time. People use it as a GIF. Like, this thing is so huge. And It was just such a lighthearted thing. I mean, I remember we were laughing and having a great time when you gave me the idea. This is so much fun. It was a lighthearted thing. But was it something we had to do because we were going to use a pool and it rained, or was there a reason we went inside instead?
Yeah, well, the concept of the movie they wanted to do, and as you know, I'm known for my comedic stylings, so
Right. My
I'm always
favorite
doing comedy.
campy. Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So I'm always doing comedy. So they said, "Hey, we would like you because one of the movies that was coming out was Baywatch," and they said, "Hey, we want you to do a Baywatch spoof, but with your little flair." And I was going, "Okay," and they were like, "But here's the one thing: you can't use any public beaches." And I'm like, "Okay,
True.
how am I going to do that?"
True.
So thus the okay, everybody's a lifeguard, and wherever I can find water is where we can find it. So what ended up happening on the day that I shot you was uh, we were shooting. I think it was 3 scenes that day, and two of them were already at the pool, and I couldn't use that pool again. And we're like, well, where are we going to go? And I think it was like my lighting guy said, hey, there's a pretty big bathtub upstairs. And I go, great. She'll be the lifeguard of the bathtub. And I remember you're just like looking at me going, why am I doing this? And I go, it's going to be funny. Trust me. But you know what? Give it to you. The one thing when that camera rolled, man, you gave 110%. You knew it was going to be slapstick. You knew it was going to be silly, but you played it like a trooper, like you were straight faced, and God, it was classic. I really enjoyed working with you because I always knew that I was going to get a person who was going to give me 110% and trusted me in putting them in situations where on the outside it would look like you're making me look dumb. But what I was trying to do was make you look funny, and it ended up, becoming that. You
It
look
was
funny.
it was brilliant because I watched it 1,000 times since then. It's edited on kids' YouTube pages. Like it's not about the sex, okay? It's really about this scene and the dialogue back and forth. And they zoom in on my face and how serious I was looking at him as I'm holding onto the little life preserver, like of
Yeah.
David Hasselhoff. I mean, it was brilliant. It was fun, and I think it's remarkable to be remembered for that. I could ask these same kids about the Sarah Palin series, Who's Nailing Palin. They'd have no idea. The lifeguard. So I'm America's favorite bathtub lifeguard. As I get that reference a lot.
Well,
So
that is perfect. Let me tell you, out of everyone that we hired on that to in that movie, you look the best in the red Baywatch swimsuit. You absolutely killed it.
well, there were always things that I did. When I got in the business, having tattoos wasn't a thing. And though we have nothing against tattoos, directors and club owners and photographers in the late 80s, early 90s, they did. And they said, working around this, it's not going to look great. And later, as I viewed everybody, I realized how different it is because you could kind of dress me in anything and I could fall into that neutral spot where it is a bit different if there's a tattoo down the side of the leg or
Yeah.
something that just draws the eye away from it. We're supposed to be a palette. And so I remember that at the time, porn stars only got tattoos on the back of our necks. Remember that in the mid 90s? We were
Yeah.
all doing the background, which I did one. I got it removed, okay? Because I was like, how great is this in spin class? I look like a gangbanger because I have this big script tattoo in the back of my neck. But that was a ton of fun. And you continued to direct for quite some time. Do you still direct now, or is the agency just 100% everything?
No, I had like everything, just like with performing, you do something long enough, and eventually you're like, okay, I'm done. So I joined Wicked as their exclusive contract director back in God, I want to 1998, and I was with them for 20 years, and then when
Wow.
when the
20
agency
years.
yeah, when we formed the agency with me and my business partner Andre Madness in 2014, I was trying to juggle both, directing and doing the agency, but the agency just needed more of my time, and quite frankly, uh, yeah, it was a total different landscape when I finally, hung it up, it was a total different landscape than what it was when we started. When we
Sure.
started, I mean, it was basically blank checks. You could do whatever you want. It
Yep.
really, budgets weren't so scrutinized. You could have as much fun as you want. And
Yeah,
now,
and also the experience was very different. I can remember my first couple of years in the business, going to set was literally like going to a social event.
oh yeah,
We all enjoyed each other's company. There'd be some people on set. Some girls I remember would bring books because we didn't have a phone. If there was time where we couldn't be talking because something was being shot, girls would sit on the side and read. Like it
yeah,
was different. There weren't phones, there weren't distractions. Everybody wasn't in a rush to go somewhere else. And so that whole vibe was very different from when we started to, when you finished directing, right? It
yeah.
became more of like, you're right, you're on this tight budget. Now it's just work. Now you're only getting this much out of people. You can't really feed everybody. You can't have craft services. You
Oh
can't
my
do all those
God, no,
things. I know.
no,
You
not
can't buy
craft,
anything unhealthy
craft
snacks.
craft services is we wait for the one person who is starving so much that they finally say, forget it, I'm going to McDonald's, and then everyone just throws them money. Pick me up this, pick me up that. So craft services. When I left in 2018, when I stopped directing, God, my budget compared to hell, just going off of the Baywatch thing, was probably my budgets were about a fourth of what that Baywatch thing was.
Well,
But they
yeah, that
still,
Baywatch thing, you still had to cook. I can remember
yeah,
for a long time you had to cook and you
yeah,
had
we had
food and
catering.
coffee. You had catering. Well, yeah,
Yeah,
I completely remember. I can remember every single house. The last couple of times we shot together, I shot for you, you directed me. I can remember each house and what the kitchen looked like. That's where we hang out because there's always cooking going on. Those great smoothies that the cook would make. There was some
yeah.
morning smoothies were amazing. Like you had all this. That was great, but you couldn't do that in 2018.
Oh
There's no
no,
way. There's just no way. There's
no.
just no way. You couldn't do that. You really just wanted to get in and out of location fast enough before anybody needed a full meal.
Yeah, yeah. And
That was
so
my
yeah,
theory. If
yeah.
I'm just shooting one scene, I'm like, we can all eat on the way and we can all, but because you just don't have the time, right? You used to rent incredible locations that had
Yeah,
huge lanes so we could all have our cars on and not be on the street. But
yeah.
the agency, I've done this too, Jonathan. It is not an easy job.
No, it is. It is not. It is. I always like to say it is a pride swallowing daily event because you cannot. What if you have?
So perfectly explained, and it's fucking sucked my soul. It was
It
like a
does.
black hole for my soul at times because it was the first life I ever lived where I really had to have my phone on 24/7.
Yeah,
And, because something can happen. Also, the whole like, oh, you've got this many jobs booked. I just want to do under over odds before I left. How many will not show? How many will be late? Your first couple hours of the day is checking in with somebody that said they were 5 minutes away, but they're not there yet. But then it's 10 minutes later. And then, I remember that whole, yeah, it's
yeah.
a lot.
It is definitely. It's a lot of work. It involves a lot of my time. But I would have to say it's a new challenge, and it's so far, knock on wood, has been a great experience. I think one of the things that has made it so good for me is number one, I have an amazing business partner in the form of Andre Madness.
I know,
Who,
Andre.
yeah,
Yeah.
he has been not only a great business partner, but just, and as you know, this bit, being in this as an agent, you have the highest of highs and the lowest of lows. So it's nice when you have somebody there who can understand when you're at your low and can say, hey, let me pick you up. It's okay. Let me dust you off. It's another day. But it's, I enjoy the fact that I'm able to help brand new talent, both male and female, get into this business and get into it the right way and the safe way, as compared to when we got into it, which was just let's cross our fingers and hope for the best.
Can I ask you before you go any further? Do you remember how skeeved out you were when you used to have to go down to the testing center in Venice Beach? It was like Venice Beach ghetto adjacent, that one testing center
Oh
that
my
went
God.
once every 90 days. Okay. I don't know why, Jonathan, but that first day, Peter Davey drove me there. I'm standing in this parking lot and I'm thinking, if I can't go in there, obviously I can't shoot scenes. Like, I just flew out here from Pennsylvania. Like, what the fuck, you know? And I was like having this panic and I'm like, I'm more than likely going to catch something in this clinic. Like, that was, and we only tested every 90 days.
I know, 90 days. And I'm going to go one back because, again, I was in a little bit longer than you.
Yeah,
Not a whole lot longer, but a little
but
bit.
longer.
When
Yeah.
I first got in 1990, it was every 6 months.
Oh, oh, I can't even imagine this. Oh my, the contact tracing would be okay. So, wow. Yeah,
Yeah.
that is what I love about you and want to help you continue talking about the agency. But what I would love about you doing this is I think one of the most important things for talent is to see and interact with other people who have been present in the industry and have had good experiences, who still want to be here. You still want to be able, you were talent over a dare. You then, were an amazing director, and also your sets were always really fun and really enjoyable. We all loved working for you. And just
Oh,
because,
thanks.
you liked adding in that comedy thing, but you were also very funny. So you kept it light. Your lighting crew was always great. Like, those were good. You provided good work environments for us. And that's huge. And now you're able to kind of put everything that you learned and share it with talent and make sure they're being directed the right way. Also, the other people that you're booking talent to know that you know what's up, so they're not going to be weird and shady with you. I mean, it's just great that you're present and that you're helping out both ends of the business end by raising the talent, right, and showing them how to be appropriate on set, how to pack your wardrobe, how to be prepared, how to take care of yourself, and then on the other end, making sure everybody's doing the right thing for your talent.
I try. I try. The one thing we always, both Andre and I always say is, especially to our female talent, is remember, you have a dad and we're not it. We want to help you as a business partner, but we're not here to hold your hand, on basic stuff that we hope that you know. Um,
Yeah, that's
but,
well
but
put.
again, yeah, I'm sure you can understand. There's just things that you would just like, hey, you have to shoot tomorrow. Are you tested? No. Are you going to go get tested? Yeah. And then to only find out, oh, I didn't get tested. Can they move the shoot? No, 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 they can't.
No one would believe that there's somebody inside your office, because I know I had somebody in my office that all they did all day was went through a spreadsheet, checked test, checked
Oh
the
my
date on
God,
tests,
yes.
started to remind you're 4 days out from your test expiring. Can you tell me when you're going to go? You're 3 days out. This was an entire job. Just as a reminder. And to me, my theory was always like, I can't be a plumber without my toolbox, right? And my test is my toolbox. Like, no one has ever had to tell me to test because but it's a different ball game. For me, the most wild things were like bail bondsmen calling me in the middle of the night. And I can remember a couple girls who made sure they said, if she wants me to go to my shoot, she'll bail me out. Like, those were calls where I'm like, what do I do here? Do I know this person well
Wow.
enough to bail them out? It's never a good situation, but there were many laughs as well. We had a lot of fun. There's a lot of great young charismatic people that bring energy into your office that
Oh,
just is delightful. I mean, just so
absolutely.
fun.
Absolutely. And again, I enjoy the people that I get to represent and that I get to work with. I'm very, very blessed, and I'm very thankful that they are willing to entrust me to help guide them, advise them, and mentor them as they are trying to reach a level of success anywhere close to where you have gotten to. So it is it really is a fun job. For every headache, there is just a ton of smiles and joy. So
Yeah, I can remember getting certain phone calls to book certain styles of scenes. And there was a moment where there was this naked pie throwing website. And I would book scenes. Girls didn't care. I'm not having sex. No, it's a non-sex job. It's just pie throwing. But we laughed so hard as we were putting that on the schedule. Like, this is actually a thing. It's just some kids. It was a website. Obviously, it didn't take off, but pie throwing was an exciting. Oh, Wednesday, we got a pie throwing. Amazing.
Yeah, there's a couple of fetish companies that we deal with that I just kind of go, oh, okay, didn't know this was a
This is a
fetish.
thing. But they're
Yeah.
usually the nicest people you'll book with. They're
Oh
usually
yeah.
the most informative, and they want everybody to be comfortable. So it was very unique. But Jonathan, where can everybody find your talent, your roster, and also how can they maybe submit their photos to be a part of your agency?
Well, the agency is Next Level Talent Agency, and Next is with 3 X's, not
Of
just
course it
one.
is. It's porno.
Yeah,
Can't
of
just
course.
do it. Come on,
So,
Jonathan.
so if anyone wanted to check out our site, either to see the models that we represent or to possibly become a model, all you have to do is just go on to nextlevel.com. Again, that's nexxxtlevel.com. And there you can see the models, and it's pretty simple on if you wanted to submit a model submission, whether you be male or female, because we got 2 big buttons. One says female, one says male.
You made it simple.
I would think it was simple. I do find in my inbox a couple of, in the female category, some dudes, and I'm like, how do you mess that up?
Obviously, there's a language barrier, probably. But Jonathan, I haven't seen you in years now, and I just wanted to thank you for such a great, just everything we've done together has always been lovely. You're an amazing human. I'm so glad to know you, and I'm really glad that we're branded together in history by the infamous scene where he says, "This is not a beach, it's a bathtub."
Yeah, no, it was a fun day that day. There was a lot of laughs, a lot of yucks. And it turned out really well. Obviously, if you're getting reminded about it.
Thank you so much for joining, Jonathan. I really appreciated seeing you today. Thanks for visiting here on the Lisa Ann Experience. I'm so shocked that this is how Jonathan got into the business. It was over a dare. Are you kidding me right now? Over a dare. That is such a great story. And to think that he could be successful at it and make a lifetime career out of it, you can follow his agency at Next Level Talent, which is with 3 X's, because in the triple X world, we 3X everything. Then I reached out, I'm really trying to spruce up the mailbag, right? So I got a new friend around the corner. I got Brett Raybold, who you can follow at Brett Raybold, and it's Brett with 1 T, not 2 T's. Brett, a new upcoming comedian, absolutely right here to deliver the mailbag. And may I just say, this is going to be a ton of fun. It is time for the wild ride that is the mailbag on the Lisa Ann Experience. And it is so much better when I get to begin with these gifted individuals we call comedians, funny people. Funny people actually live my life. And I've got a funny person here with me today. That's Brett Raybold, who you can follow on TikTok and Instagram and Twitter at Brett Raybold. I will spell that out. BRET. Not 2 T's. This is where it could get tricky for you, Brett. BRETRAYBOULD. Thank you, Brett, for joining today. How are you?
I'm doing excellent. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you for getting the spelling right. A rarity in my career.
It's traumatic. I went through the E being put on Ann for a large part of my career. I actually went 1 year on the road by Lisa Ann Noe. I put Noe as my last name. And when people say, "What's Noe?" I'm like, it's no fucking E. That's what it is. There's no fucking E on Ann.
That's you. It was Lisa Ann. Was it Noe? Like literally N-O-E?
I spelled out N-O-E. N-O-E. Yeah, I asked my agent, just put this on my contract for about 18 months. Let's see how this flies. I could tell every fucking club, stop putting a fucking E on my name, and I'll drop Noe. It worked. No one called. No one put an E. I would show up at these clubs, in my day, Brett, before the digital era. You show up at this strip club, and they've got this board out there where they have to put the letters on, and it made me even madder because somebody had to get a ladder out and take the E down. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. See, this is how I'm stupid. I am picturing you literally having the letters N-O-E as part of your like name, and I'm like, oh, she added a whole component to her name. You're saying just in your contract, you would say
No, on the dance gigs as well. NOE. Yeah, you are right. There was no hyphen, but there was a NOE. Now, today we sit here and you are in a visor in a tuxedo. Let's break this down. I have follow-up questions. What's the deal?
First off, Lisa, most shows, listen, you're a beautiful woman. I don't want to tell you you're not special. You are special. I do this for most shows. However, I am doing a show with a beautiful woman. I figure I better look my best still. I would feel like, I'll be honest, I was weird when I put the tux on that you were going to think I'm like trying to look snazzy when I do this all the time. I'm like, I don't know what to think of. She's like, did I just have some freaking weirdo who's like wearing a tux on a Zoom conversation?
So Brett, I got to ask you, is it a pre-done tie or do you do the bow tie by hand?
This is a pre-done tie. Does that make me less attractive? Be honest.
It doesn't. The bow tie is a very tricky thing and it could make you late for an interview. So this is what you're doing is efficient. You're doing something very efficient and you're not risking that one day it's tied well, the other day it's not. It's consistent. I like everything about you so far, Brett. But let's get into this mailbag. So, the email box is normally a lot of people from different countries who we assume are using Google Translate, and it doesn't always pick up on what they're saying, which I think makes the crypticness of the weirdness even better. But here's the problem.
Yeah.
We also assume that these same people don't listen to my podcast, right? They just send emails. They think they're going to hook up with me by email. Kind of gets lost in translation. I'm not hooking up with them. I'm just using their emails for content. Okay.
Let me ask you a question. Has an email, and maybe this is dangerous for you to put into the ether, has an email ever led to you hooking up with an individual?
It hasn't, but there is one guy that I've been going back and forth with for like 4 months.
Oh, wow.
It's about 2 emails a week. Now, it's not sexual. He asked me how many times a week I have sex, and I decided to put a crazy number on it, which at the first time was like 118 times. And then he did the math, and he responded back with how many times a day. And they've been like 4-word emails each time. So he'd be like, so it's like 16 times a day. And then I write back, yes. So then he writes back another question, but this takes us a while. So he's like, what kind of man can handle that? I'm like, well, any man can handle that. So now I've got him stressed. You know what I mean? So like, and then it's just been like this guy, when his email finally gets there, I get excited to see him. Of course he's from another country, but I just have him on the hook. And what I'm planning on doing is taking the thread eventually and just making it an entire mailbag over like the 6 months of our back and forth of ridiculousness. I'm freaking him out a little bit, but
I want this to be a Netflix series. I want this true love as it should be. I should mention to you, I'm very excited to be on your show. I really appreciate it. This might have relevance to you because it's a weird job I'm working tonight. And I'm sorry to delay the mailbag. I could shut up.
Please. This is fantastic.
Cut this out if you're like, that guy's boring. What a stick in the mud.
No.
I'm actually working an orgy tonight.
Oh my gosh, this is so mailbag relevant. What are you talking about? Cut this out. Are you fucking kidding me?
Did I F up? Should I have emailed you? I have an email draft I've been meaning to send you for 10 years, Lisa.
So when you say you're working an orgy,
this is true.
Tell us what this means.
This means I am basically a PA for said orgy. So the orgy I got through a friend of mine who he basically was like, do you want to work an orgy? And I said, yeah, I need money. And he goes, you can have 2 options. You can either get paid roughly like $20 an hour to just move stuff, or you can have free access to the orgy. And this says something about my financial situation. I said, give me the money. I said, I'll take the cash. I'm also seeing a lady.
But Brett, you're good looking enough and you're fine. I'm sure sexually you're doing just fine. So you're not really that tripping on it. Okay. But these are what I call fringe.
Wait, I want to go back. Good looking enough? What the hell? You could have just ended at good looking.
You're right. That was a compliment that sounded like an insult.
But I didn't mean it like compliment.
I'm so sorry. I learned better than that in a program that I did for June. Like I learned better than that. But you're a good looking guy. I'm not saying you don't want to be in an orgy.
Thank you. All right, program's over.
But wait. Let's say this. I call these fringe activities, which they're fantastic. Last year, before the world closed down, I got a gig to be a referee for a champagne wrestling contest at a strip club. Like that was like, yes, pay me for
Wow.
this. This is amazing. Like it was
Referee for a
great. Champagne
champagne.
wrestling. So what they did was they put these baby pools on the stage. They had all the guys sitting close to the stage in like rain gear, like you're at Niagara Falls and you don't want to get wet from the falls, but no.
Yes.
And then, I was the ref and also the MC. So I would like auction off these bottles of champagne, right? And the guy would get to come and spray it all over the girls, right? So it's going there. I was so sticky, but it was amazing. I am looking forward. Like, let's do a follow-up. Let's book you as an actual guest on the Lisa.
Oh my God.
And after this orgy, I expect some notes in your phone, okay? We're not going to give away names. We're not violating anyone's privacy.
Of course.
But I will have follow-up questions like the first one I'm going to ask you is like, are you wearing a mask? Because orgies do have an unusual smell.
I am not. I don't think I'm going to be wearing a mask. Do you recommend I do wear a mask? Are you recommending mask even outside of like COVID, anything COVID related? You're like,
yeah, this has nothing to do with COVID. This has to do with the funk that you're going to start to smell. So here's what you could do. You could just bring the mask just in case. You don't want to make people think you're COVID freaked out, right?
Sure.
Bring the mask. But at some point, what happens is it's a lot of sweat, a lot of breathing, a lot of functions happening. And sometimes it can turn into a funky, funky, funky smell.
Oh boy, I can't wait. I'll be honest. I have, been like, I guess like booked to do this job for about a week. And for the whole week, I was like, oh, I'm just like, it's going to be cool. And then last night I was talking to my friend who booked me on it, where he's my roommate too. And that's when like my Midwesterner came out and I was like, I'm so nervous. Like, I was like, I'm so nervous to be around this. Like,
I want everybody to feel comfortable. I don't want to be staring, but I don't want to be looking away because I don't want anybody to think I'm not looking at them, but I don't want to be staring at them too much. Right?
Yes. Yeah, that's exactly right. Although I've been told people are perhaps even exceedingly kind at these things like you think it's going to be crazy, but I think people are probably going to be exceedingly kind in service of making sure everyone's comfortable.
Of course. This is a great gig. And yes, Brett, I will have follow-up questions. Maybe if your girl has any essential oils, you could bring those, because this is what I used to give to my directors and people on set. I give them essential oils to rub on their hands and just do the smell thing when the scents got a little bit weird.
That is this is genius. I'm getting to talk to like the Mozart,
the Grand Poobah of orgies.
The Grand Poobah. I'm hoping I can knock you off your perch one day, though, Lisa. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And listen, you're gonna knock me off right now because you have a cooler gig than me today. I mean, this is amazing.
Yeah, right.
I'll be over here doing cameo calls, one-on-one calls with fans. You'll be watching an orgy, and I'm thrilled. But Brett, we're going to have you back on because there's a lot to talk about here. Let's get into the mailbag.
Would you like me to read the first question?
Please do.
All right. This is from Lex Luthor. Wow.
You think it's the real Lex Luthor? Because I like that show.
That's superhero. That's Superman's enemy, right?
Yes. And now there's a Lex Luthor show. Like, I don't know if he would be Lex Luthor 1 on Gmail, though. I think he'd be like lex@lexluthor.com.
Yeah. I don't think he can get access. This is LexLuthor1@gmail.com. To ask Lisa, I need to know that, and you mentioned the Google Translate issues.
So now you know what I'm talking about already.
Yes. Just to be clear, I am reading it word for word. I need to know that I'm in relationship, but right now I have some serious personal problems going on. My penis is getting hard at night, but eventually now it happening on daytime also. What to do, Lisa? My girlfriend is not happy. My girlfriend is not enough for me to have sex for an hour. So what to do? Thanks in advance.
It's very kind that he thanked me in advance for helping him with this situation, because I clearly do not believe he's a listener, but let's just say Lex is a listener. It is normal for dudes to need to masturbate more than 1 or 2 times a day. I'm assuming that he's in a country that's in a culture that doesn't openly speak about sex. He's seeing his girlfriend for 1 time a day, sex once a day, and now he's getting a hard on at work or during the day. You just got to handle it. Isn't that, Brett, you're a guy, isn't the advice just handle it? Masturbate? Is it a crime?
So I am still trying to figure out the problem. His penis gets hard at night,
And
I'm
then it gets
wondering.
hard during the day too. And now he doesn't know what to do because he feels like his girlfriend at that one time at night, this is me getting into the head of Lex Luthor. He feels that that one time at night should make sure he doesn't get erect for the rest of the day. He thinks she's not enough, but really he's just getting an extra boner.
Oh. I mean, good for you if you're getting extra boners. Isn't that just like a bonus boner? Don't we? Isn't that a good thing? So
I
he's
think
blaming it on his gal.
Yeah, he doesn't want to masturbate. He probably thinks it's too much work, or he probably thinks it's a criminal offense. Maybe where he's from, it is a criminal offense, right? So he's looking at it like it shouldn't get hard during the day. He doesn't want to. What's funny about these emails, Brett, is these are all questions that could be sent to Google, right? You could Google this, right?
That's hilarious. That's hilarious.
But instead, they put the effort and time into thinking, you know what? The girl that I masturbated to the most in my entire life, Lisa Ann, she is going to cure me and she's going to answer. She's going to put her time into typing back and answering this question. And all is going to be good. When really, I suggest Lex just Googles it. Let's move on to the next email.
Let's move on to the next question. Here we go. This is from O'Hare4221 at seznam.cz. I believe that's
Check.
I have no idea. Check. Let's see.
Yep.
Hello, Lisa. You are a wonderful woman. Pretty and clever, famous combination. I have a personal question for you. I will pay any amount so that I can meet you for the purpose of very pleasantly lost moments with you. Your Vota.
Yeah, everyone thinks that I'm like a pair of shoes, right? Like you go to the store and you buy a pair of shoes. Like I'm sneakers, right? I'm like those Jordans that come out that people wait in the line at the mall for, and that there's like this amount. So like a while ago, we put like $10 million on the price. Like let's just say it's 10 million. If somebody pays it, I should probably do it, right? Because who doesn't want 10 million? The fact that everyone thinks that, first of all, do the math. I have 10 million followers on social media platforms. Half of them would be willing to pay me for something. There's not enough time in the day, nor does anyone have the budget, okay? But no, I do not want to be purchased. I am a human being. And at this point, especially now that I don't do scenes anymore, I mean, that was a career. It was a job. I did get paid for it. But it never led to me going to random people and having sex with them because the guys in the business were hot, like sexual superheroes, like I call it Olympic sex. You know what I mean?
Lex Luthors, you would say.
Lex Luthors, right? Although Lex Luthor's just stuck with an extra boner, so he doesn't know what to do. But my Vota is not going to get to make lost memories with me. So sorry, I am not for sale.
I would like to go on the record and say, Vota, I'm in a more fiscally desperate position than Lisa Ann. Probably not. Maybe I'm not your type. Maybe I can send him some feet photos. I want to start delicate. Like, I don't know if I want to send him full penetration vids yet, but feet is safe. So Vota, hit me up at Brett Raybold. And perhaps I can have a pleasantly lost moment with you, my friend. I'm not trying to. I'm not trying to take your potential business.
No, I already said no.
You rejected it.
I rejected it. No, you're not hustling on my hustle. I already passed the dollar. You know what I mean? It's like you show up at the car wash. There's extra work. There's work. There's no work. Okay.
Yeah.
That's okay. So he's got you. Moses is next.
Moses Valenzuela. Hi, Lisa Ann. My name is Moses, and I will be in NYC in November running the NYC Marathon. I was wondering if I could take you out on a date, perhaps dinner or cocktails. Hope to hear from you. Have a good night.
The only reason I picked this email is because were you a fan of Seinfeld?
I mean, not in a huge way, but I am aware of Seinfeld because we're all aware of Seinfeld.
Right. Well, there was the episode with the marathon runner that somebody didn't set the alarm clock properly, and then he was late to run the New York Marathon. And whenever I talk about the marathon, I always say to somebody says I'm running the marathon, I'm like, you better set multiple alarms. Like, you know how a show just sticks with you?
Yes.
Here's another person now. Everyone knows I live in New York City. So when half the world is coming to New York City, they always hit me up and ask me to go out to dinner with them. That's
what I wanted to ask. Like when I saw that question, I wanted to ask you, like, how many petitions for dates? Honestly,
thousands a day. Thousands a day. thousands of men a day think just because they have feverishly masturbated to my content that my work still needs to continue and I need to forge some sort of fucking relationship with them and sit like a peasant and eat fucking dinner. Okay, Brett? You brought it out of me, the most honest I've ever been about it. I'm almost sweating, but yes, I felt when I got that check and walked off that set, my work was done. Everybody was going to masturbate freely and it was going to be wonderful. But no, now come the internet and the obsession. Now everyone thinks they're also entitled to my fucking time. So it's thousands a day and I go out with none of them.
And I would say this to build on that. First off, you have a previous email that's willing to pay you just to hang out with you. So, buddy,
we should filter them. We're in desperate times. We should have a folder in desperate times. I'm going to have my assistant set that up today. Set up an in desperate times folder in case we need money. And then we can go back to those people.
Vote up. Does the offer still stand?
And then have them bid against each other. Put it up on some sort of bidding website.
This is, and I want to get on the record. You said that I got you sweating, so I just wanted on the record. Brett Raybould has gotten Lisa Ann sweating. That is what a tremendous accomplishment.
And also, we'd like to wish Moses good luck for the marathon.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. You should just come wait at the finish line.
Yeah. Come on. With a hot cup of coffee, which was also what happened on Seinfeld. Kramer was standing there with a hot cup of tea or something, and the guy was running and thought he was grabbing a cup of water, but actually he grabbed a hot drink and he chugged it, and then he didn't finish the marathon. So again, this continues. Okay? All right. Next email.
Hi, Lisa. I am from India, 30-year-old boy. I want join adult business. I want make a porn actor. How to do? Kindly give me more information about adult industry too. That is from
30-year-old boy. He had no name. I know.
No name.
A 30-year-old boy who also could use Google to Google porn agencies. But let me tell you where this is coming from. So in a lot of countries, porn is banned permanently, India being one of them. But now with OnlyFans, which is not considered a completely adult site, with Twitter, where you can see a lot of porn, and with VPN boosters, India has just come on the scene. And I got to tell you, Brett, it's so heavy that I can't go on like an Instagram live when they're awake because they are so obsessed. It's like their first understanding. They're so intense that they will just be in there and like, a couple thousand people in the room, but they're chatting like every other message is, I want you. Let me lick your toes. Let me touch you. And you're like, buddy, like, I understand this is all new. So yeah, India, every day they're emailing like, how can I get into porn? Google porn agencies and also understand that you're probably not going to get a work visa and it's never going to happen for you. So just keep watching.
Although he didn't list a name, I might recommend for his porn name 30-year-old boy. I think that'll look good on the front page of X videos.
Yeah, you're so right. All right, next one.
Here we go from Courtney Libelou. What happened to your larger set of breast implants? Your current set is much smaller.
Brett, can you imagine if somebody talked about something on your body in such a kind of purpose way, like set? Like, you know what I mean? Set. Courtney is very devastated, and I understand Courtney because I went through this for about 2 years. In 2014, I had my first run with having to have some lumps removed from my breast. I actually just went through it again this year, but now I've had the gene test, so I know that there's no chance that I could have cancer. It skipped a generation with me, which is such a relief. But during that time in 2014, getting them removed, I also went smaller. I'd retired from the industry, and I was like, okay, it's a good time to go smaller. I can be more comfortable. Boy, did people hate me for this, okay? And I still get a lot of hate and upset. So Courtney is one of these people that is still befuddled. He's upset. Courtney, he or she, will just say Courtney. Courtney's upset, not sure. Courtney needs to know. So Courtney, if you think this is your business, I had a breast cancer scare and I did the right thing by having these lumps removed and I went smaller for safety so it's easier to read my reads. I still have to go through not only a mammogram and a sonogram, but a fucking MRI every 6 months. You lay in that tube for an hour and a half. It's not fun. So buddy, sorry that you feel stressed. Here's what I can advise. Only watch scenes dated 2014 and before. You will still get the bigger implants and unfollow me from all social media so you don't have to see what I look like now. And you'll be a lot happier.
This is how successful you are, Lisa, is you're at the point where you can just be like, hey, unfollow me. Where my level of success, I'm like, I need them all. I need them all.
I
You can
remember that
comment on
feeling.
my testicles. You can comment on whatever you want. So Courtney, unfollow Lisa, follow me. Again, we different content, but
It's a numbers game.
it's a numbers game.
I'll get you, boo. I'll get
But
you.
that,
This showing right here in the tux, the visor, your sign behind you, the duct tape on the wall, all of that is one thing. Then we have you back on
the duct tape on.
unpack.
Do you like it?
I do
Lisa,
like
do you like
baby.
it? This is
I
me
do.
setting up my studio. I went to Rite Aid this morning, got a poster board, and I wrote brettcoin.org. That's my cryptocurrency. Sorry, I got to plug in before the plug time.
Yeah, we're going to plug. We're going to
Sorry.
plug.
Yeah.
No, you're fine. Two more.
Here we go. Travis Charles. Hi, Lisa Ann. I was just inquiring, how is the transition from the adult industry to the other business ventures you have now? What I also mean is, what was the process like? What did you think of on the day-to-day basis on that transition? And do you miss the adult industry? I like that question.
It was a nice question. One spelling error, though, did I miss? MIS, not MISS. Did notice that. I noticed the spelling error. I'm a big fan of Grammarly. Man, the first time I met Grammarly, I spent a weekend just making sweet love to Grammarly. I was editing my book with Grammarly, and I realized, A, I have no idea when you're supposed to hyphenate a word. B, the fuckery with commas, right? And and how many words that I'd been putting as two words that are actually one. I learned a lot about myself that weekend. And Grammarly was like, serious,
I gotta ask you a quick question. Are they a sponsor of your podcast?
No.
Because they should pull Volta and give you a little bit of dough for that. That was a nice plug. And I'll even say, having read, many of your emails from some of your fans and followers, I think all of them could use Grammarly big.
It's great because a couple of my followers know how much I love it. And so when a troll hits me really hard and it's like got a lot of bad etiquette, a lot of bad writing, they'll write back, if you used Grammarly, she'd like you a lot more. And so now it's become a thing, like how to flirt with Lisa Ann, use Grammarly. So
perfect pros.
Travis, the transition from the industry to where I am now was just a process, right? It's more about the noise on the outside in our lives that distract us from doing what our purpose is. And for me, a lot of that was, of course, social media and what people had to say. I still get it today. I'm never taking fantasy football advice from you. I'm never, you look better with dicks in your ass. I get it. I understand. It's not an easy thing to jump to the next thing, but as long as I stayed forward focused, that's all that really mattered. My people in my life, my close group of friends. And eventually it starts to diminish. And then once I've reached 1 million on Twitter, I felt like I could start really blocking people and muting people. So, you're like, do I mute the person or block the person? Then you're like, well, I'm at 1 million. I can start blocking now because I feel like I've reached a nice target. So I just don't let other people get in my way. I think really creative people can pivot and do anything they want in life. We're just that way. Brett, you're that way. What we put our mind to, look, who would have ever known as a young man that you would be working a orgy? Like, these are all things you didn't plan or predict.
I'll do even one more. Who would have thought, honestly, 16-year-old Brett would think I am so cool that I'm sharing a conversation with you. He would be so proud of me. I think it's really cool that I get to talk to you. This is great.
16-year-old Brett, I'd like to remind you to wrap that tool, okay? That's my message for you. We got one more email, and I save one of these always because I love it when people write me an email and the whole question is in the subject. Because if they're asking to have sex with me and it's in the subject, I would say I don't have sex with anybody who doesn't know how to write an email. But this one's a little bit different.
This is perhaps I am not seeing it because I'm getting hi. What's next? Oh, he said in the subject. Oh,
that's it.
They said. Oh, the subject line was hi. What's next for Lisa Ann?
Yep, and the body is completely empty. This is what they do. It's amazing. A whole email in a subject. I like the brief nature, though.
Yeah, it's like, why waste the time with the body of the email? Just get to it.
Why waste the body?
What's next for Lisa Ann?
My new book releases this December. I finished it during our last beautiful snowstorm we had in the city, which was awesome. I'm so thrilled. My first book came out December 15th, 2015. And now this one is going to land around December 15th, 2021. But this really brings me to a more important question. Other than the orgy, What is next for Brett Rabel?
You are so good at broadcasting.
Thank you.
As someone who's done a lot of comedian podcasts where they're like, all right, so you are so good at transitioning.
Thank you.
So I appreciate that, Lisa Ann with no E. And
Yes.
what
and
is
Brett
next?
With no double T.
That's right. What's next for me is I got an hour special. It's currently on YouTube called Brett Rabel Retires from Comedy. Give it a gander. Right now, the most present thing, though, that I am pushing is I launched my own cryptocurrency. It's called Brettcoin. I turned myself into a cryptocurrency. I'm the world's first publicly traded comedian. I did it in large part to raise funds for a movie I'm trying to make that is effectively the modern day equivalent of Blazing Saddles. We've had a lot of trouble getting that off the ground because it is somewhat adventurous and risky comedy with traditional Hollywood industries. So I'm trying to circumvent those gatekeepers and just ask the internet if they want to buy into the project, buy into my comedy. Go to brettcoin.org, Brett with one T. Although I did buy brettcoin with two T's.org
Smart.
as well.
I love what you did. And you had it drop right in there, right? You took that domain, you dropped it into the original. Beautiful. I do every rendition of every spelling of everything, then just drop it in. Just drop it in because you're going to spell it wrong, but you're going to land in the right place. Doesn't matter. You don't need to know. I'm going to make sure you get there. Everyone is going to get to brettcoin.org and support you. And then, Brett, I have to have you back as a guest. So I'll reach out to our mutual friend, Lainey. And everyone can follow you on all social media at Brett Rabel. And I will make sure under this video, your YouTube link is there. Your social media is there. I got you, boo.
I'm so appreciative, Lisa. You're such a delightful human being.
Stay tight. We're going to sign off, but I'm still going to chat with you for a minute because we're going to make this next plan happen. But thank you so much for joining me right here on the Lisa Ann Experience.
Thank you for having me.
What a day, right? We learned all about Jonathan Morgan and his dare. Brett was getting ready at that time to go and MC an orgy, which, by the way, we've emailed since we recorded the mailbag. He will be a guest on the Lisa Ann Experience because we will need to hear. I have so many follow-up questions for everything about him, his first orgy. Not that he was in it, because like he said, he needed the money to actually host it. But we want to hear all about that and more. And don't forget, if you want to be a part of the mailbag, you can email me at asklisaan@gmail. Don't forget to follow all of my social media addresses. And for this podcast on Apple, Spotify, wherever you're listening, please make sure you like, review, rate. All of those things matter, just like the thumbs up matters on YouTube. I need more subscribers on my YouTube and turn on those notifications. Because this year for fantasy football season, every Sunday morning on my YouTube, I'm going to do live start-sit segments so I can help everyone set the perfect lineup and win their fantasy football league. Thank you all for joining me for another week, another episode of the Lisa Ann Experience.